Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So, a lot going on. Prayers for all the people in the Northeast having to deal with the apocalyptic skies, the yellow haze. I'm sure you've all seen the pictures by now. I'm not going to get into too much of that today because there's a lot of channels covering that. We're going to get into some other things today, but I didn't want to send prayers out to everybody having to deal with that in the Northeast. The cause of all this, I don't know. Of course, they're trying to blame it on global warming, but there's something else afoot here. Then at the end of the show today, we're going to show you some pictures of what appears to be Titus transforming into Godzilla, or eaten by Godzilla for that matter. I haven't figured it out yet. I go out to find my Titus turtle, and my little Titus turtle apparently is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, because what I found when I went to look for him was not my little cute Titus. So I'm going to show you guys that at the end of the show today. But for now, for the next few minutes, we're going to double down on a story that I covered yesterday about the killing of that poor black woman behind a closed door by a white woman. Now, I had a few people that were upset in the comments section, and they perceived that what I said yesterday was victim blaming, and that was not my intent yesterday. Now, some of their replies got filtered for whatever language is in that reply, so I approved all the replies, so you guys can go back and see them if you want, because I want to be clear here. It's not okay to kill anybody behind a closed door, unless you truly believe that that door is about to come off the hinges. Because if you wait until the door falls over, you lose your tactical advantage, don't you? If you truly believe your life is in danger. Now, my intention with yesterday's commentary was not to victim blame. I was simply trying to give context to what we already know is the intentionally obscure parts of the story and the racial agenda. And this is why they were intentionally obscure with parts of the story, so that people pick someone to blame and attack a person based on their race. Now, having said that, we don't have all the information about why a woman would shoot through a door and kill a neighbor who was on her private property. As far as I could tell, I remained pretty neutral in our coverage of what happened yesterday, but many commenters wanted me to crucify the white woman. Now, I hate to have to always say this, but I say this more for fellow people of color, that I am a black man. A lot of people dispute that, but the truth of the matter is, my dad was black. My mom was black. And even though my shade is a little bit different, I'm a black man. Now, my mother was mixed with probably maybe 10% or less white. So that would qualify me as a solidly black person. Person of color, however you want to say it. And I can tell you from my experience growing up that black people are very racially sensitive. Now, I love my mother, as you guys know, but she grew up in a different era. And literally everything she told me about what she thought white people were like in Arkansas was completely incorrect. Now, I tell you that not to say bad things about my mother, but to tell you that as there's a firm example of how black people are racially sensitive and have misconceptions about white people. My mom was flat out wrong. It was exactly the opposite of what she told me, as a matter of fact. So, we as black people have an issue with judgment, don't we? Based on the way we think white people are because of our programming. And that error in judgment means that white people who feel that error in judgment and feel our perceptions being cast upon them are going to behave in a different way when they feel threatened by a black person, aren't they? Have you ever been in a relationship where somebody is constantly character assassinating you? In other words, they start to project their fears onto you, their insecurities, when you've done absolutely nothing wrong. And how do you react when that happens? You act differently, don't you? Some people even act out the very thing that they're accused of. When they're character assassinated over time and they feel like they're stuck in a relationship, they're like, oh, you think I'm going to cheat? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and cheat then. Now, there's something different called gaslighting, and that's kind of the opposite of character assassination, because that's a thing too. What is gaslighting? Well, it's when someone really is doing something you're accusing them of. Why? Because you keep catching them doing it, or you have solid evidence that's unexplained, but they keep denying it and saying that you are the one that is character assassinating them. That's called gaslighting. And usually it's the narcissists who do that. I've run into a couple of people like that in my life. There's no good reason, no good excuse for the evidence you find. And the best thing to do in those situations when evidence starts mounting is you give an ultimatum and you leave the relationship. You don't continue to try to work on that, because it's a dynamic that is very toxic and unhealthy. And not all relationships are supposed to be like that. You're not supposed to be constantly finding things that a person's doing that are suspect, and them always trying to explain it away. So I'm going to read to you the sentiment in the comments section of yesterday's show. It was only a handful of people. It was like 4 or 5 or 6 responses. And then I'm going to read to you what I said back to them. Now, just so you know, yesterday's show, as of 1 hour ago, had a 99% approval rating. So the vast majority of you shared my sentiment on the subject. But I want to reach out and expand, because this is actually very important, okay? Same way I reach across the aisle to white people who live here, and I don't assume anything until proven wrong. I want to also extend that sentiment to my own fellow people of color and help everyone understand what's actually happening here, that story was created to do exactly what the responses were in the comment section. So this is Jeff. He says, disappointed in your murder viewpoint. Unfortunately, my replies are getting deleted. Now, they weren't deleted. They got held in the filter for whatever language was used in the reply, but I've since allowed those to come through. I agree with the other posts regarding you missing the mark with the murder segment. You insinuate blame for knocking on the woman's door with her son with her to see why she hit them with a skate or umbrella. But don't say that the lady could have easily called the cops. Yes, both women could have called the cops. So I'm maintaining neutrality here. Both of them could have called the cops. Then he goes on. He says, you assuming the kids aren't good kids was highly disconcerting. Well, I wasn't assuming the kids weren't good kids. I was simply opening up the possibility that could have been the case. I gave a concrete example that I myself used to taunt and haze adults all the time. That's what we did to get a rise out of them. So to assume that they didn't do anything wrong, I think is more of the assumption there, especially given everything going on with racial tension that the media is pushing from the top down. Let's keep reading here. Any parent that is active in their kids' lives would have done the same. I don't agree with that. I think when you feel like someone's assaulted your child, you first look for proof, which the story never established that proof that actually happened. And then in today's day and age, you probably call the police unless you have a relationship or know the neighbor personally and were on good terms. Then you could maybe call them on the phone or discuss it. But you don't storm up to their front door and start beating on their door. Let's keep reading here. No racial pre-programming, full power required. And I think that's in response to me saying that the programming worked in that story based on this person's emotional response. Look at the comment posted by Civilian War to see the indirect hate that you are creating when covering racial tension stories with the bias. No, the bias is happening from Jeff. Without all the information in the story, just crucifying the white woman for her decision to shoot through the door. That would be the bias. I'm not blaming either side. I'm simply trying to add context to the story that otherwise someone might not have picked up on. Now I'll read my response to this in a minute, but let's finish with this comment here. I hope in the future you'll be able to think about how you assume and word things when speaking with such influence as you have. Okay, well, thank you, Jeff, for the comment. I do appreciate that because you didn't attack. You just simply gave your opinion. But I'm going to give you my opinion on this. Again, I am a black man. I approved all your replies. My viewpoint was the context of neutrality and the obvious racial division programming and intentional lack of context in the story. The reader was primed to see the white lady as the aggressor and gave no clear reason as to why the children should not have been playing in the field. It seems intentional to sway the reader from understanding that children may have been doing something wrong by being in the field to begin with. Now, this happened to us as children many, many times. When an adult tried to tell us what to do, we would mock them more. Now, I'm not proud of that. I'm just giving you context as to how children behave. Now, I'm not assuming that these children were doing anything wrong, but with the state of things and the way they are, I've seen much more backlash with people of color. I mean, for Pete's sake, Snoop Dogg shot a mock image of Trump in the head on a music video. That is allowed. It is on YouTube right now with millions and millions of views and him making a bunch of money doing that. Reverse the roles. And I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter. I'm giving you an example. Reverse the roles on that. And you had a white person doing that. You see the problem here. So there are a lot of white people in fear because they know the track record of what's been happening. And the black people, pretty much it's no rules on them for what they do and say. They can call a white person a derogatory name and nothing happens because that's not racism, right? Because it's institutional. So what black people can say whatever they want. And I've seen this happen personally in my own experience. I've heard and seen my fellow black people do the same thing. And no black person can deny this. They know this is true. So let's keep reading here, my response here. Then assertions are made based on children's testimony and no evidence of harm to the children. The woman was not arrested for an attempted assault on the children, which would have already happened before the murder investigation. So remember, time went by. The white woman was not arrested at first, but if there was a real assault on the children, and there was evidence of that the skate hit them, or even an attempted assault, that woman would have already been arrested for the assault on the children. But that's not what she got arrested for. Obviously, things escalated and she killed the woman. So what I said here is there were many things wrong with the reporting of this story. If there was a white skinhead banging on a black person's door and the black person believed the door was about to come off the hinges, about 99% of black people would have done the exact same thing. The skinhead probably would not have even made it up the driveway. So, we can both second guess all day, but at the end of the day, the agenda of the elite is racial division, hence why we examine these stories and give fair balance. Obviously, the black mother should not have stormed this woman's private property and banged on her door. It just wasn't smart. You should call the police. And yes, the white woman should have also called the police. The murder was likely unjustified. And personally, to protect myself in a situation like this, I would have given fair warning. So if I was the white woman behind the door with the skinhead scenario, I would have given fair warning, which the story doesn't say if the white woman did or not, before shooting through the door. And most likely, as a full-grown man, I would have waited until the door actually came down, just so that justification would have been clear. Because anytime you take a life, you have to make sure that the justification is clear. Otherwise, you yourself end up in a lot of trouble, right? We've seen this happen. Let's keep reading here. But as a woman, as the white woman, possibly in fear that there were multiple people, maybe a mob was assembling outside of her door. Obviously, there were no cameras, so she had no way to know. And why would the white woman assume a mob could have been assembling outside of her door? Well, she had just gotten into some kind of disagreement or altercation with a group of black children. And if we put ourselves in the shoes of the white woman, she's probably thinking back to BLM and how they burned down entire cities and assembled and had no regard for the law. This could have been what was going on in her mind after she had just poked the hornet's nest with the children in the field, right? So, when you think in proper context of some of these things, then some of these things seem to make a bit more sense rather than just tagging this as a needless racial killing. The white woman just had no regard for this woman's life and just decided to shoot her through the door. How many people do you know just want to shoot somebody when you know that you could be in big trouble? So, this is the same white fear that the people in Harrison, Arkansas were feeling when BLM showed up in their town. The next thing they probably thought was that businesses were going to start burning. So of course they're going to be upset because the person intentionally stoked the fire. Now, did this black woman intentionally stoke the fire? No, I do not believe that she did. I don't believe she intentionally did that. But with the racially charged environment that's going on right now from the top down, this was the end result. It was basically a series of unfortunate circumstances that ended in this. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But that is what is going on. Oh, wow. Psalm P says Orville Dam might be overflowing again. Wow. This would be the second time it's happened in the last... Gosh, didn't it happen like 5 years ago? We thought that dam was going to go then, didn't we? Oroville, which is Goldville. Guess we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? And then we'll get into some other stuff. I want to show you guys the final touches on the stairs that I made. And basically yesterday, had a really busy day. I rushed over to Charlie's house for breakfast. Charlie made me breakfast. Charlie just moved here a couple years ago. He lives close by. And so after I finished putting the final touches on the stairs, I ran over there. I was almost late. And Charlie made me an omelet. And we talked all about the channel. And we shared stories and stuff like that. So thanks, Charlie. Really great guy. And then I headed over to pick up my shotgun in Viola, Arkansas. And I had a wonderful conversation with a very nice gentleman at the gun store. And I was waiting there and for my background check to clear. And gosh, that is nerve-wracking. And then, of course, they want your whole life story. You got to fill out forms and everything. And I was pretty shocked at how much information our federal government wants to know when you simply go and buy a shotgun. Very shocked. And the guy at the gun store said most times the background checks come back green instantly, and he could proceed with giving me the gun. And he says sometimes they take a while, and other times they can take days. Now, I'd never purchased a gun, so all this was new to me. So as the minutes ticked by and we were talking, we were both getting more and more nervous. And I started to wonder. I was like, are they going to deny me this gun? Is this what's happening now? I mean, obviously I'm on here and I have some pretty unpopular views, I guess, when it comes to governments and voting and all this. I was wondering if they would actually do that, if I was actually on some kind of a list. But we waited, and it took 15 minutes, and he and I talked about the federal government and how this whole process of having to write down your life story on a form and wait for some bureaucrat to approve you to meet your Second Amendment rights, that in that process, your Fourth Amendment rights to privacy are violated. And it was weird. After that, I felt different. I just felt different after that process. I felt like somebody violated me. Like now that I got this gun, I'm on some kind of a list or something. Like the government knows that I have a gun and they will forever perceive me differently, despite me being a peaceful person. Anyway, I left Viola, beautiful little town, and I booked it back to finish watching the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson. I was going to see if I could decode that for today's show. I mean, it's a loaded film, but I don't know. Yeah, Cheryl says Viola violated. Wow, great connection, Cheryl. Yeah, weird, right? That's the spiritual realm coming through, isn't it? Now, Viola was the closest place that I could pick up there. I guess the way it works, when you order something online, you order a gun online, basically you have to go pick it up from an approved vendor. And the vendor basically does the background check. They charge a small fee. And I think the vendors like that they can do this because then they can sell you ammunition. And then they have to run the background check. There's a whole computer process. He types it in and forms and all this, right? The whole process took about 30 to 45 minutes. But interesting that place was in a town called Viola, where your Second or Fourth Amendment rights are violated. So I make it home and I go out on the porch to grab a package, and I just about jumped out of my skin because my cute little Titus was replaced by a very large, grotesque creature that you're about to see next. Let's take a look at this. I've also got some deer footage for you guys. So for a split second, I thought that Titus had transformed into this thing. I mean, yesterday there was Titus, and then to sit next day in the very same spot was this creature. So I promised to show you guys the full end product, the completed project. Now, this is at the end of this video. This is 20 minutes long. But at the beginning, I'm going to show you guys the stairs first, and then I'm going to start talking about something that God has impressed upon my heart to talk to you guys all about today. So we're going to do like a walkabout, and then I'm going to discuss with you some ideas of how we're going to get through these hard times, through the tribulation. Okay, let's go. So I'll show you that now. Of the stairs, the stair project. I'll do a wide angle view as well. There's the first set of stairs we did, and here's the second set with the dirt around it and the stained stoop. And the stain's still a little bit wet, but you can kind of see how it blends it right in. Got the light here. So I think this looks great. Very happy about this. And I added the dirt there. I took away those two blocks. I removed those, and I just left
these 2 stones here for the foundation, and I built it up with dirt. Let's do a wide angle. Take you guys over to the berry bushes. I'll show you where I got my dirt. Building a fire over there, it looks like. Burn everything off. So I'm in flip-flops today, but I was already over here, and no, there aren't any snakes here. Those would make great habitats for wild creatures, right? But as I was knocking this dirt off the stumps, I remembered that, and I was like, I need to use those stumps, for the dirt off of these stumps, to fill in any, you know, spots in my stuff here. I've got other spots down here that I need to flatten out a little bit, so I could use the dirt from these stumps. Every time it rains, you can just kick off a bunch of dirt off of it. It doesn't really compact that well, though. I guess that's great for growing soil, right? But anyway, here's the berry update. That is going to be delicious. Look at the size of that thing. I've really been taking care of these. Been really trying to make sure too many bugs don't get on them, although I do see some bugs. Taking care of this because I know it's going to give me lots and lots of berries, and looking good so far. Hopefully it starts to grow onto the fence here. I can keep it growing on the fence, or just keep weaving it onto the fence as it grows, you know. I think that's the way you're supposed to do it. But really cool. And from here you can see the stairs much better. Really sets off the cabin. It really needed it. Some of you asked if I was going to do rails, and I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do rails or not. I don't think so, because I will kind of interrupt the view of Three Brothers Mountain, which is out there. So I'm filming this right after the morning show. I already dug the dirt, dropped those buckets up there, and look at that. That looks pretty cool. One of the neighbors said I'm starting to look like Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid. I don't know. I guess it kind of does look like that, huh? This kind of looks like a bonsai tree, like if I actually made that tree, and I didn't. It just stood there, and it withstood all of the stuff that happened to it. All the trees falling around it. The 1,000-gallon tank, the septic tank that's right below it, it survived all of that. And I think originally I thought it was a dogwood, and that's why I kept it, but it's actually not a dogwood. That's a dogwood right there, and that one got saved as well. So they will be like the 2 icon trees of the property, I think. And yeah, things are shaping up. God is good. God is amazing. Gosh, 4 years ago when I was in France, living off of $300 a month and giving most of that to Mark for utilities, I had never ever dreamed that God would bless me with something like this. You know, and of course the patience and the diligence that it takes to even save for something like this, it's something a lot of people aren't able to do, because life keeps happening. Fortunately, my mother's been there for me. I was able to stay with her. I was able to live off not a lot of money for many years to finally be able to do something like this. It can be done, but it's getting harder and harder and harder. And the reason why it's getting harder is because of the matrix. The matrix is closing in around places like this, to where land is getting too expensive. I was shocked. It now costs 1 acre is what the same as 5 acres cost 5 years ago when I got this. So 1 acre now around here is $14,000, and that's a little bit more than I paid for 5.5 acres. Now, obviously, this isn't all usable, as I've shown you. Probably about this top acre here is probably all that's kind of usable, and maybe that little flat area down here that I made. But as you go down the hill, you know, you got to climb back up the hill, which is not a problem for me anymore. But you know, these are things that you can't do certain things. You can't drive a truck down there to build. You can't, because it's a slope and there's no road down there. So you're pretty limited. Yes, you can have like park-like areas down there and hike down there and maybe I could put a park bench down there in that flat area and things like that. But you're not going to be able to actually like use the property. I mean, I guess you could graze on the property. I do have grazing rights here, so I could do that at some point. But this is kind of the update on everything that's going on. Promise to keep you guys up to date. We may or may not be having a headline show today, but sometimes it's nice just to take a break and do something different, right? Now, all that stuff underneath the deck, I'll end up processing that as the months go on. It's just basically leftover steel for the roof and stuff. Some of it I might be able to repurpose at some point to build like a little shed, so I'm not storing everything in the garage. The shed would go over there to the right. There's actually a little flat area just to the right of that red hydrant, and it's got weeds in it now, but at some point that's a flat enough area to build a decent shed. And I could probably build that out of some of the wood that I have already milled behind that stack of firewood. So things are happening. This will be an ongoing project over the years as the end times begin to intensify. I just encourage, if there's anybody out there listening and you do find acreage, at a low tax base, get the land, get it now, because it will become the refuges for the people in the last days. Unfortunately, I don't have the means to allow people onto this property. It's against my covenant rules, but it doesn't mean that now that God's blessed me with this, I can't save up maybe and save up some money to get a large piece of land that's unrestricted that you guys can move on to. I feel a little bit weird about that sometimes because you never know who's going to come out. It would have to be a vetting process. It would have to be something where you would have to sign some kind of a contract of behavior and conduct. You don't want to invite a bunch of people that are using drugs or have lots of vices that are going to spill over. You definitely don't want it to become a target by the government to look like some kind of cult. You don't want to do all that because trust me, the CIA will send in operatives just because they're nosy, just because they don't want people living off the land. They want you in their economic system. So I'm always leery about doing stuff like that, and for those reasons that I just shared with you. You can call it paranoia, but I've seen it happen. I've heard personal stories. My contractor's from a cult and was there for 10 years and told me some of the stories that happened there and how power can corrupt people very, very quickly, to the point where all of the young people were doing all the work and all the old people were just sitting back, who were completely able to do stuff, but they just sat back and watched the young people do all the work and collected all the money. And so I believe that there's still enough land out there where each person can get their own acre. People blow money on dinners. I used to do it myself. $200 dinners. You do that 3 times a month for 6 months, and there's your land right there. But very few people understand that. They have their things that they want, their vices. Maybe it's video games, maybe it's golf that they play and they blow $100 on, or maybe there's a lot of things that people blow money on. And if they just think about what it is that they're spending money on, you can actually save the money to at least have the land, pay only $50 a year on taxes. That's all it costs, $50 a year for raw land still in Arkansas for an acre. And have that so that when you do need to bug out, when you do have to get out of the city for whatever reason, let's say your house got broken into 5 nights in a row, you would want to get out of that situation, wouldn't you? You would have somewhere to go, and you would make it work somehow, some way. There's enough people out here that care about each other, that are God-fearing, that will help you as well. I get free eggs. If I had no income at all, people would bring me food probably.
Now, that is the scenario that I'm talking about now, is the off-grid scenario. Now, obviously, I'm not living off-grid. I did a little bit more than off-grid here on this property. But the scenario I'm discussing with you right now is the off-grid scenario, which would be specifically an acre of land, unrestricted land, where you could park a travel trailer on it. They now have solutions for internet, so you would not be without internet. They have ways you can get internet wherever you are on the planet. So you'd have internet. And I can tell you, even in the dead heat of summer out here, if you're under a shaded tree, it's about 5 degrees cooler. Heck, I went to my neighbor's basement. It was a 90-degree day outside, and in the basement, it was literally like 65, 70 degrees down there. It was almost cold. So You don't even need air conditioning if you build a proper dwelling on your property, or dig out the side of a mountain, or go under a heavily forested part of the property. And if you have a travel trailer, you'll be warm. There's all kinds of ways to keep warm in that scenario. So this isn't for everybody, but when you're faced with life situations, and if you knew you had an acre out here that you saved up and paid for with a low tax base, it might be an option. It was for me. I've lived in a lot of different situations, and I was like, I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want to give a landlord $1,200 a month. It's like burning money in a fire. You never get that back. Usually you're living in a substandard, situation with neighbors and noise and bad water. And then you never know what that landlord's going to do. They can raise the rent on you. They can kick you out. I said, I don't ever want to live in that fear ever again. It happened to me so many times. And God was like, I need you focused on me, not being fearful of your future. This is why I think he blessed me with this. Let's keep listening here.
They would give me jobs to do if I needed to. There's plenty of people around here that are with that. So those are just some of my thoughts.
So because people are so God-fearing and Christ-based, literally in the Facebook groups of the town I live in, people will actually say, hey, I need work. And people will come on there within minutes and say, hey, you can come over here and help me with my roof or help me with my backyard. And they're so trusting. You will go over to their house and they will literally pay anyone who wants to do work. So if you had to come up with $400 or $500 a month, it's very easy to do out here. You just join the Facebook group and people will hire you to do odds and ends. They'll pay you fairly and you can put in an honest day's work and go away and have money for groceries to support your lifestyle. Now, I'm being very specific here because there's a lot of fear out there about doing this on different scales. On the scale of living in a travel trailer and on the scale of doing something a little more like what I did here. There's a lot of fear. So this is why I'm being so specific about this. It isn't to guilt or fear anybody into this. It's to give you all the information that you need to attempt something like this. Okay? Let's keep listening here.
On those topics, I've had many people come to me and ask me to start some kind of community. And I'm like, I don't think that's the way that you do it. You're asking for trouble at that point. And it's not a fear thing. It's just once they got you all in one place, they can start to mess with you. Now, if you have some kind of loose agreement, where, you parcel off maybe, because that's what I would probably do. I would just parcel off. Let's say I bought 50 acres. Well, I would parcel off pieces. I would just give them to people. Why, just give it to them. Or put the deed in their name or whatever, but then they're responsible for the taxes on it. And then they can come live on their land, and now they've got some skin in the game, right? Now they've got a reason to have good conduct and not be a problem, not to fight with other people and everything like that. And such is life, right? Such is life. So those are just some ideas. Like I said, God's blessed me, and so it's getting to the point, not right now because I got a little catch up to do, but I might start saving, and that'll be the goal of the channel, save up money for some acreage. I hope that the cost will not have gone up too much by the time we get that done, and it's going to be a slow process. I don't have a lot of disposable income, but it's something I think that God is impressing on my heart to do. We did something like this a couple years ago. But it was different on the channel, where our channel was doing okay back then before we lost it, and I started giving out gift cards just to random people who needed it, who had a need. Many of you will remember that phase of the channel. We were giving out $500-600 a month in $20 gift cards, and but then very quickly the enemy infiltrated, right?
And those weren't gift cards; they were PayPals. So many of you will remember that. This was more like 5 years ago, I think. It was just before we lost the channel in France. And notice the trend there, right? Because imagine a YouTube channel that gave away everything that they got. That channel would become very popular, wouldn't it? That channel would show other people what we should be doing for each other, right? And so as soon as we started doing that, that's when we lost our YouTube channel. It was right before I went to France, or right in the middle of France. And I was devastated that we lost our channel. We got it back. It took like a year, but we did get the channel back, and that's the channel we're on right now. But let's keep listening here.
You started getting random people that were never had been to the channel before, you know, coming in and, you know, wanting these gift cards. And they were basically scammers. Somehow they caught wind that Enterthestars was giving out money. And the people that really needed it weren't getting it. A lot of people got their feelings hurt because they're like, I've been on the channel forever. And it became a whole project within itself where I had to basically police this whole thing. And I wasn't getting any work done on my channel. So I discontinued that. And then, of course, all this other stuff happened. Adam's Plumbing, get a shout out. Looks like they're installing a neighbor's, some of the neighbor's appliances. So that's why we had to discontinue that. It became a full-time job, and there were scammers that were coming on, and then there were a lot of hurt feelings for people that didn't get the gift cards, who really needed it. People living in their cars and stuff like that. And there's no way for me to vet people through online. I really have to have a relationship with that person, a friendship, to be able to understand the need. But maybe this idea of using whatever proceeds there are from the channel to save up money, buy a bunch of acreage, and give out an acre to each person. Now, not all of the acreage is usable, as you can see here, but you guys are very resourceful people, and I could see you guys like taking 2 weeks to dig out a section in the side of a mountain, you know, and building a homestead on it, you know. And I don't know what the laws are here. I haven't looked at any of that yet about doing something like this, but that's something that is on my heart to want to do. Okay, so God is good. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. This will probably be the whole show tomorrow. I'll just play this, just me and this walkabout, talking about everything and my thoughts and feelings. I have not seen Titus today yet. I don't know where Titus is. So, he'll probably show up. I bet you his home is right underneath that green corrugated plastic that I was going to use to cover my firewood. I bet you that's where he is. I bet you that's his home, because it's all shaded under there. But I'm not going to bother him. I'll leave that where it is. He'll keep the snakes away, obviously. Well,
so hopefully you guys kind of understand the concept. There's not much time left, obviously, but if God gave me the means and I was able to save up an amount of money to purchase 50 acres or 100 acres, then we would start the process of giving away an acre to each person so that they could build a homestead or have a place. Now, that would mean transferring that into your name. But you would be responsible. At that point, you'd be responsible for property taxes, right? It would have to be completely unrestricted land. And if God did that for me and all the laws worked out in that favor, that's what I would do. Now, obviously, I'd have to carry the property taxes on that land for a while until it was all given out, right? And I don't even know if what are the laws on doing something like that? Can you parcel out land like that? I think you can out here still. Now, there may come a point where the government says you can't do that anymore, because this is the last thing they want people doing, is living off of their grid. If I haven't shown that to you by now, then I haven't been doing my job for the Most High and helping people understand what our government does not want. They do not want you outside of their system, because then they can't control you, right? Now, I'm going to check in with you guys, and I'll show you this crazy creature. This is nuts. Oh, there you guys are right here. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So what do you guys think about this idea? Well, obviously, if we started giving out acreage, guess what? It would be someone I'd have to meet in the flesh and really figure out what that person's about, Obviously, because these people would become neighbors with other people. It wouldn't be that I would be too concerned about it, but they would have to be neighbors with other people, and we'd have to make sure everybody got along. But there are enough of you that have been coming to this channel for the last 10 years that I think I pretty much know. And I can look back through comments on the channel, and I can find, how you interacted on the channel, and you can get a pretty good idea over the course of 30, 40, 50 comments that you can look back on, and you could see the people that will probably be first in line for something like this. Okay. Now, it might be a place where you might not move into right away, right? But it's a place where you could go bug out, right? If you needed to, when the city that you live in starts to fall apart. Pete doesn't think this is a good idea. I'm anxious to hear your opinion on that. Why you think it wouldn't be a good idea? Invite Tom Griffin. Yeah, that probably wouldn't happen because already there was deception there and backstabbing and backbiting. Definitely wouldn't do that. But yeah, I'd like to hear. Let's have a discussion about this. More people would attract local legislation to prevent homesteading, says Tracy. What is your elevation exactly? Margaret says, yeah, I'm at about 1,000 feet elevation. It would be an entire job. Love the idea. Now, why did this come out? Because the thing is that a lot of you that I talked to have expressed to me that you could never do something like this for one reason or another. Either you're too old or disabled, and there's a million reasons why you wouldn't be able to do something like this. Or you can't save the money, even though it's not a lot of money. You wouldn't be able to save the money. And so this would be for like people like that who have no other options to get out of the situation they're in. Pete says, I'm asking for trouble. Can you be a little bit more specific about that? Now, I know a lot of other channels have been talking about doing this in a different way. They're typically asking for money. I would give these out for free. Of course, you'd have to pay the taxes on it, but that would be the thing that I would do. Or other people are selling real estate. There's other channels actually trying to sell land to people in the truth community. Obviously, I would not do that either. It would be a gift. So yeah, let's keep talking about it for a little bit, and then I'll show you this crazy beast. If everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. Yeah, and this scenario would give you your own little microcosm to where you would be responsible for your food. Now we could have group areas, I guess, like put an acre here and there, and that could be a growing patch and everyone could help with that, but you would have your own acre. And for a lot of people, that would be a dream, right? So, yes, large groups make for easy targets, Snowball. Yeah, and that's what I kind of said a little bit earlier. And this is why I wouldn't do just one big parcel of land and then have a commune on it. Obviously, that would become a target. It could be infiltrated. But if you had a loose association of acres of just people with like mind, then you have some rights and freedoms, right? Because it's your land. And that's the difference between past ideas and this one. And you be around like-minded people. Now, of course, there's always the fear of vetting people, but I think we've had this channel long enough, and I've seen many of you and how you conduct yourselves in the comments section, and I would research that before handing out, because those would be other people's neighbors, right? But you can tell about someone by their track record. And of course, I'd have to meet person in the flesh, maybe spend some time with them, and so on and so forth. Promise we will not have Kool-Aid parties. Some of you mentioned Jim Jones. Obviously, we're not about that here. So, anyway, that's just an idea. Let's finish up this video. I also have some footage of some deer here that popped onto the property.
You guys, I just came back from picking up my shotgun, and I just came back from breakfast with Charlie, and it appears as though Titus has bought his friend. Look at the size of that thing. Now that, I believe, is a snapping turtle. Oh my god. Look at the size of that thing. Now, I'm going to stick this GoPro in its face. Let's see if he bites it. Actually, maybe we should put a stick first. Oh boy. Look at the size of this thing. Whoa.
What is that?
About Titus. Where is Titus? That is a snapping turtle. Now, weirdly, there is no... I mean, I have a creek down at the bottom of this hill, but we're a little bit of a ways from the lake. So, apparently, this is a wildlife highway. Something is attracting these animals to my property. Wow, look at this. Let's put a stick in his face. He's not going to like this, but we're going to do this. This is how we'll be able to tell if it's a snapping turtle or not.
Now, normally a snapping turtle, you stick something in their face, they're going to snap it, right? He was pretty docile, though. Look at this thing. Look at his eyeballs. They're like, he's like got bug eyes. Anyway, anybody know what that is? He is massive, just cruising around.
Not snapping. Look at the size of that thing. What kind of turtle is that? So this is a size 13 shoe, so it's about 13 inches long. Oh, he's loving this. Put it back here. So that whatever that is, oh, it's probably a bad picture. Look at his eyes. He looks like he's got chameleon eyes. So he's about 13 inches, but from head to tail he's about 20 inches. It's almost like he doesn't look well, huh? Let's see if he snaps the camera. Hey, buddy.
So there's a close-up of him in his glory. What a strange-looking creature, right? Wow. Now, there's no water anywhere near here. I mean, I got the sprinklers on, but the water is like, the creek is like 200 yards away, down the hill. Like about 100-foot drop in elevation. So I can't imagine he crawled all the way up out of that creek. So weird.
Look at his feet in the back. Like claws. Yeah, I know the snapping turtles down in Florida hiss and everything, and he's not doing any of that. He's very, very peaceful looking turtle. So I'll let this water stay on for a while here, and we'll go from there, you guys. Not very aggressive. It's alright, buddy. I know they have telescoping heads if it is a snapping turtle, and he would make quick work of my finger. But he's not very aggressive at all. Wow. What a treat. Oh my goodness. That thing looks really old. I don't want to get any closer. He probably knows I'm not going to hurt him, but oh boy. So maybe he's waiting for me to turn the water on, which I'm going to do right about now because it's the time. But as I tell you, every day there's something new on the Honey Milk Ranch. Well, this was the last thing I was expecting to see. If any of you guys can identify what this is, I think it's pretty sure it's a snapping turtle. But he didn't snap that stick. Normally they're very aggressive, and he would have snapped that stick. So I'm going to turn the water on for him, because it's about that time to water the lawn anyway. And let's see how he responds to that. Don't worry, buddy, I'm not going to hurt you. Look at that thing. Oh boy. Let's turn the water on and see how he reacts to that. I hope he didn't push poor Titus out. Grasshopper. Did you see that lizard?
A little lizard lives in there. Every day I come out, he just, like, that's his home down there. Whoa.
So, the turtle sees the water. Gosh, these stairs turned out great. See how I got the dirt around there? So this is good. Oh boy, never a dull moment. Look at the size of this thing. Well, I know that other channels show guns and everything, but I'm not going to pull this out and risk it. Someone was telling me you're only allowed to put pre-recorded videos up of guns. You're not allowed to go live showing a gun. So here's the box anyway, so you guys can see this. So this is the gun. And Tituszilla is on the move. Looks like he's bailing out. Apparently the water is not what he wanted. There he goes. Look at the size of that thing. This is shocking. He is moving. Keep going, buddy. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow. Unbelievable. Tituszilla. Tituszilla. Alright, you guys, that's about it. I love each and every one of you. Have a great day. Bye bye.
And what else do we have here? Deer sighting. Look at this deer. So the deer love the grass. So look at that. I didn't know deer ate grass. I guess they're herbivores, right? So they probably do, but they like this fresh grass. Look at him. He's like right there, just chilling. Now I'm going to call this deer Stomper because he started stomping at me. I'll show you that in a minute. Apparently deer can be aggressive.
That is cool.
What a beautiful deer. Look at him.
So they eat grass. Yeah. He can't even see me. Yeah.
Look how close he is.
Look at that. He's weeding for me. That's it.
Did you see him stomp? Stomper.
Hello, Mr. Deer. Gosh, they just get like a deer in the headlights, literally just sitting there staring at me, stomping around a little bit. Whoa, look at him stomping. That is hilarious. Mr. Stomper. It's weird because he should be able to see me in here.
He just ran away. So that's it, you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the update on the Honey Milk Ranch. Stomper. So what kind of turtle was that before we pop off here? Now tomorrow we'll do Between the Headlines show. Get back into some of these headlines. Let's let this chat catch up. Some of you know exactly what kind of turtle that is. This one is a little bit more definitive, so we should be able to ID it a lot easier than Titus. There was some debate on what Titus was. Some called him a terrapin, some a tortoise, some a box turtle. Deer don't need water. A reindeer. You've invaded their peaceful meadow. I actually grew the meadow with my grass, so that's why I think is what's attracting them. Yeah, I think that's a white-tailed deer for sure. Definitely feels like a zoo around here, or like Noah's Ark or something. An old turtle, says Joy. Mule deer, says Margaret. It's a tortoise, not a snapping turtle. So that was a tortoise, huh? Oh boy. The debate continues. Titus, a box turtle. All turtles are terrapins, says Daryl. Stomper. Yeah, did you see him all stomping around? He seemed upset. Horn-nosed rhino turtle. Get a dog. That was a loggerhead snapping turtle. Berries in his garden is for tortoise turtles. I hope it's not a zombie deer, says Aura. Common snapper. Snappers. Common snapping turtle. So it's weird. It's a she, not a he. It's weird she didn't try to snap that stick, though. I see videos all the time of really mean snapping turtles on some of these wildlife channels and hunting channels, and they always try to eat, snap people, and they'll stick like a stick in front of its face, and they'll snap it right in half. Apparently, the bite power of these snapping turtles is like off the charts. Like it can snap like a metal rod in half or something. So anyway, you guys, I'll let you hop to it. I know you guys have a full day and I'm hungry. I want to eat some breakfast. I'll keep you guys updated. Tomorrow will be Between the Headlines. Some things are already starting to develop. There's more information on the Virginia crash victims. Arnold Schwarzenegger weighs in on his Yahtzee father. So we're going to break that down. And Tesla's got some new technology, these robots. So we're going to look into that as well tomorrow. So I'll see you guys all tomorrow. I love each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe, everybody.